Hello, and welcome to another episode of Yee's Law Journal, where we break down the latest legal developments and their implications for businesses in a fast-paced, practical way. I'm Josh, your host and a partner at Zhonglun Law Firm, one of the top international law firms headquartered in China. Today's episode covers a highly discussed topic on August 30th, 2024, China's Antitrust Authority, the State Administration for Market Regulation, SAMR, officially announced that Alibaba had successfully completed its 3-year antitrust compliance program following its historic penalty. We'll be exploring what this landmark case means for the future of regulation, especially as AI technology becomes a core component of platform companies. Joining me is my good friend and partner, Alice. Alice, what are your thoughts on the Alibaba case? Does it represent a shift in China's regulatory strategy?
Absolutely, Josh. The Alibaba case, along with the subsequent 3-year rectification process under continuous administrative oversight, is indeed a landmark event. This process began back in April 2021, when Alibaba was fined for engaging in anti-competitive choose-one practices on its e-commerce platform. SAMR required Alibaba to stop its illegal behavior and submit self-audit compliance reports for 3 consecutive years. At the time, the RMB 18.2 billion penalty shocked the market, but what really drew attention was the ongoing administrative supervision and deep involvement in Alibaba's internal business operations. This response was part of the broader concern around the anti-competitive practices of large platforms and their impact on consumers.
Exactly. For those unfamiliar with the case, here's a bit of context. SAMR found that Alibaba forced merchants to exclusively sell on its platform, excluding others like JD.com and Pinduoduo. This practice distorted competition and harmed both competitors and the merchants operating on Alibaba's platform. This case marked China's first significant step in addressing monopoly behavior within the digital platform economy. As you pointed out, the enormous fine sent a clear message that China would no longer stand by passively in antitrust enforcement, particularly as the world was paying close attention to how major tech companies were wielding their market power.
Right, and it didn't end with the fine. Alibaba was ordered to undergo a comprehensive overhaul of its business practices, submitting compliance reports annually for 3 years. This type of long-term regulatory oversight is relatively rare globally. Alibaba was required to stop its unfair competition practices, and SAMR even brought in third-party evaluators to monitor and assess the effectiveness of Alibaba's reforms.
Exactly. And this 3-year compliance period wasn't just about fixing past wrongs. It was about setting new standards for the market. This form of in-depth behavioral regulation, as opposed to the traditional after-the-fact antitrust enforcement, has sparked widespread discussion. Some argue that this approach mirrors aspects of the EU's Digital Markets Act, DMA, which identifies gatekeepers based on factors like market dominance and user base, then imposes additional compliance obligations without needing to prove individual cases of competitive harm. Alice, do you think China is moving toward a similar gatekeeper model, focusing more on direct behavioral regulation?
That's a great question, Josh. The EU's DMA is designed to proactively prevent platform companies from abusing their dominant positions, targeting gatekeepers like Google and Amazon, with rules designed to curb anti-competitive behavior before it occurs. In contrast, China's approach with Alibaba has been more reactive, punishing the company for specific abuses and then mandating corrective measures. However, I do believe China is gradually shifting toward a more forward-looking regulatory framework. SAMR has increasingly been pushing for long-term compliance mechanisms in platform businesses, which aligns more closely with some elements of the EU's rule-based approach.
I agree entirely. The 3-year compliance oversight for Alibaba does resemble a kind of behavioral regulation, where companies are subject to continuous monitoring and reporting. This is very much in line with certain aspects of the DMA, even though China doesn't have an official gatekeeper designation just yet. But as China's platform economy continues to grow, I think we're going to see more regulatory mechanisms like this.
Especially as AI becomes a key driver of platform economies. Josh, you know that AI is transforming the competitive landscape across industries. What are your thoughts on how the Alibaba case could influence future AI regulation?
This is an important area for us to discuss. AI is now widely used in e-commerce platforms. from personalized recommendations to dynamic pricing strategies. By leveraging AI, platforms can significantly influence consumer behavior, but this also introduces new challenges: algorithmic bias, data monopolization, and market manipulation, to name a few. On the other hand, traditional competition theory hasn't yet developed concrete tools to fully address AI's impact, and there's a lack of empirical data to support its application in these contexts. I think regulators will increasingly lean towards behavioral regulation. For instance, we might see future regulations requiring platforms to make their algorithms more transparent, explaining how they operate to ensure that they're not being used to manipulate the market, rather than focusing solely on the effects of specific algorithmic applications.
Right, algorithmic transparency is going to be a key issue. In fact, the EU's AI Act is already discussing similar provisions, requiring platforms to provide detailed explanations of their algorithmic decision-making processes. Do you think this will become a global trend? Will China follow suit?
China has already started taking steps toward data security and algorithmic transparency. Especially for large platforms, AI algorithm transparency not only affects competition, but also concerns user privacy. I expect we'll see stricter regulations in the future, particularly regarding how AI is used in business decisions and platform operations.
I agree. AI regulation is going to be much more complex because it doesn't just involve competition, it also touches on ethics, privacy, and fairness. The real challenge for regulators, both in China and globally, will be finding the right balance between fostering innovation and protecting competition.
Exactly. This is going to be one of the most fascinating areas of legal development in the tech space. Thank you, Alice, for such an insightful discussion today. To our listeners, that's all we have for today. If you have any questions about the future of tech regulation, feel free to drop us a comment. Stay informed, stay compliant, and until next time.
See you next time.